use my slap head to sync up sound. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is One Gamer Who's Dog here. Yes, I'm with my baby. I'm not calling my baby a dog. The dog's downstairs, etc., etc. Hello. Hope you are all doing well. As you can see, at the moment we are slightly multitasking. I look forward to the dad shaming comments in the block below. However, this is one of my only chances I get to talk a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the latest video game news that's broken today. And I've got some views and opinions on it. So it's the big one. It's the PlayStation Classic Mini. So all that we're clear, this is Sony's version of the Mini SNES and Mini NES that Nintendo produced a while ago. It is going to be out for Christmas, and at the moment in the UK, it's going to have a retail price of £90, which is about 40 quid more than what technically the Nintendo Classic Mini or the SNES Classic, Super Nintendo Classic Mini should go for. They normally go for about £50, so it's a bit of a bigger price one. What you are getting is the console. You're right. Good. You are getting a console, plus you are getting 2 controllers, which is quite nice. There's also talk about some weird ports being on the back or something, some sort of communication. I don't know, but I'll look into that later. And it's going to be getting released on the 3rd of December 2018. So, you're getting 20 games on it. Now, the list has come out, and there was a lot of speculation about it. I think a few of them were announced previously, but the full list is out now. So I'm just going to run through the list, because I played all of these games pretty much on the list, bar from one, which I have no recollection or opinions of. So I'm going to go through the list and talk about them a bit, because they are of my generation. God bless my mum and dad. They got me PlayStation pretty much when it first came out. Cost a lot of money back then, but clearly I was the gamer that I was then. So yeah, and I played a lot of these games. I either owned them or rented them out, because that was a big thing. I lived right next to a Blockbuster, so I could rent out all these games or borrowed from friends, etc. So let's get straight into this list now then, shall we? Okay, so number one we've got is Battle Arena Toshinden. Battle Arena Toshinden, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong, is a 3D fighting game in which you use weapons, I believe. I'm trying to remember now. There's footage playing somewhere on this screen of some of the game. A fantastic fighting game. One of the first that originally come out, but eventually got overcrowned by Tekken. In the overall rankings of the fighting games. I'll get to my views on Tekken later, but I was always a bigger fan of Battle Toshinden, quite frankly. Battle Arena Toshinden. I like the weapon aspects of it. It wasn't my favourite game, but yeah, and I'm just looking at the Wikipedia page now, and it was originally promoted as the Saturn Killer to go up against Virtual Fighter, which is probably quite an apt thing for it. 3D fighting games, I know look, from an artistic and graphical standpoint, it's quite strange to look at what we've got there and think down on it, but we'd never seen anything like this before. Quite frankly, when a 3D game dropped, so we were happy to take anything. It wasn't necessarily a bad one, and this is actually another thing I should have mentioned earlier. The controllers we are getting are not analog. They got not dual analog controls on them. They're the original PlayStation ones that just own directional pad. So this was a 3D fighting game using just the D-pad. So there's a lot of experimentation on the controls. I think this is a very good game to put on the console, because it's sort of an early one into. I think it's probably one of the first launch titles, or it's definitely up there. So it's an early game, very important, and yeah, I think it makes sense for it being there. Okay, so the next game we got on the list is Cool Borders 2. I never owned Cool Borders 2. I rented it out heavily at the time, along with Cool Borders. I'm trying to get the dates correct in my head, and I'm just going to check this now. But when was not Cool Borders released? When was that released? Wow, okay, it was released, but after it. I thought it was before. No, wait. Sorry, I was looking at 1080 snowboarding on Nintendo 64, and I thought that was released. I thought that Cool Borders came after it, because I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, this is like Nintendo. This is Sony's attempts to combat coolboarders, because 1080 snowboarding, because 1080 snowboarding was like a huge game on the N64 when that first came out. I mean, it was a massive one for it. But I am wrong. Coolboarders 2, by the looks of things, was released afterwards, only in Europe. Maybe it's around about the same time. But yeah, so Coolboarders, a nice little snowboarding game. Thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. It's sort of that slight arcade-ish style, nothing to the level of SSX. But it was a nice solid snowboarding game, really. One of the things I remember the most about it, however, is and I think they didn't have it in the first one. I think that's the one me and my sister mainly played a lot of, was the original Coolboarders. But what it didn't have was just a ramp where you could just jump off and sort of just do tricks in the air, kind of like a trick ramp. You know, like you just go down like a massive hill and then boom up there. That didn't have it. I don't think that came into Coolboarders 3. Yes, I don't think it came into Coolboarders 3. Oh god, look at the difference with the... It's the light coming off my screen. I just saw the brightness of everything change. Yes, that didn't come into Coolboarders 3, which I'm quite surprised about. I thought it was Coolboarders 2. But yeah, quite a good game. I'm surprised it's in there, because I wouldn't have called it like one of the definitive... For me, it's not a definitive PlayStation game. I think there's other games that you could come up with, but it kind of makes sense. Okay, so next one's a big one for me. It's Destruction Derby. Destruction Derby has got a very, very sacred place in my heart, because it was, along with Doom, I got Doom and Destruction Derby. Those were my first two PlayStation 1 games. We had the demo disc for a while, because it was weird going from Nintendo consoles. You always got games with, and then PlayStation, it was like you get a demo disc. But yes, Destruction Derby and Doom were my launch titles. Doom's not on here, but my launch title was my first game, so I got Destruction Derby. So it's got a very, very sacred place in my heart. There is what I'm trying to say now. It's not in nostalgia, but Destruction Derby, I think, it got the respect it deserved at the time, and it got the respect it deserved afterwards. But I don't think it's getting the respect it deserves still to this day. It's an acknowledged title, but I don't think that it's... you're grabbing onto my cable. Yes, you are. I think that it's a franchise that was not properly utilised by anyone, including Psygnosis, who built the game, who eventually just... I think they got bought out by Sony. Yeah, I think they never got bought by Sony, but yeah, just a great game. The original mashing in of in the bowl was astounding, and I always kind of thought that, you know, like for the PS3 and for like when the PS4, when they'd done that, they should have always... Oh, Psygnosis was the publisher. Oh, it was developed by Reflections Interactive in Newcastle. Shout out to Newcastle. I think it's still going. They developed Division 2. Fucking good on them. Sorry. Yeah, I always kind of thought like the franchise never got enough, and it was one of these ones I always thought, why don't they bring this back? I know we kind of had it with the Burnout series, but just the bowl on its own, yeah. Now, in terms of the actual gameplay of it, yes, you've got the bowl, the main Destruction Derby bowl, as I've kept repeating, but then you've also got some race and stock car races and time trials and stuff like that. Just to, you know, the racing game with the crashing mechanic on it. One of the things that I do like about it is that the sort of art style and like character models, even though you don't really see character models, but sort of, you know, pictures for the racers and the art designs on the cars, they weren't really sort of... They weren't vulgar, and I'm trying to get my words right here, but it wasn't just some sort of like extreme... extreme, like, kind of Destruction Derby, fucking, you know, metal, crush, you know, early mid-90s rock shit. It just was... I just appreciate the art style. In the sense, there was something a bit grown-up-ish about it. It wasn't trying to sort of throw on a cool factor for the sake of it. But yeah, a really, really great game. And again, a franchise that doesn't get the respect it deserves. I'd love to see it come back. I think, though, that it should just be as a tech demo, even just to show off what your engine can do. Make a Destruction Derby, just the bowl. Next game on the list is the big one for me. It's my favourite game, probably of all time. It's definitely top 3. It probably is top 1. It's Final Fantasy VII. The JRPG that got me into RPGs, showed me what the whole genre is. I didn't think a game could do story like that game done. I was incredibly young when this game came out as well. It was 97. I was 12. I got this, I think, for I think it was my birthday at the time, so I think it was my 12th birthday. Just an amazing game. It was spread across discs. I remember seeing the original screenshots for it in an old PlayStation magazine. No, in fact, in Nintendo magazine. No, it was a PlayStation one. Either way, I remember seeing the screenshots for the original concept art for the game when they showed sort of in-character models, and it was nothing like what we ended up getting. I remember even seeing it then going, oh my god, that's something to watch. Not gonna lie, I didn't really know what the game was about and didn't understand probably some of the concepts that I was reading and looking at the time. I just saw like the album art cover and probably a bit of description about it and was like, yeah, that would do. Now, my simplistic little brain back then when I first played it, and I've talked about this, I've got a whole Let's Play where I'm trying to go through the whole of Final Fantasy VII. I haven't filmed another part for a couple of years now, and I'm really happy for it coming out on the Switch soon. So I've been doing Let's Play of Final Fantasy VII. I've been doing it for like the last few years. I haven't filmed it in about a year or so, have I? I'm excited for it coming out on Nintendo Switch. That's probably where I'm going to play it. Funny enough with Final Fantasy VII, and again, I go into a lot of detail on this on my Let's Play. I strongly suggest checking it out. But for me, I've played it now on the PSP, the PS1, the PC. I'm going through it on... Oh, I've done it on PS3 as well, actually. I'm pretty sure I did. I'm doing it on PS4, and I've still never completed the game. I always leave the last boss fight because I want the story to forever be open. I'm probably actually going to complete it, though, this time round on my Let's Play to get over and done with. Or I might complete it with her. But one of my favourite games, there were parts of it, though, that went over my head when I was like 12 years old. The materia system... I didn't even know how to use that. I used the same... I didn't customise any characters for the whole of the first disc when I first played it. I just grinded the to get XP and level up. Because there's that tutorial that you do when you go to the barracks in the first town, and like you can find out about the material system, equipping item, and my brain was just like... It couldn't comprehend what was going on at the time. I just wanted to press attack and materia. So we done that, didn't we? Well, you weren't here. But yeah, no, I love Final Fantasy VII. It's a great story. It means a lot to me. Glad to see it. And I think it is a game that rightfully so needs to be on, if you're producing a Sony PlayStation Classic. It is a classic PlayStation game. It's a game... What are you doing? It's a game that sort of defined the console more so than Final Fantasy VIII did. Final Fantasy IX was later on in the console's life cycle, and if we look at other Square Enix RPGs, you know, so like Vagrant Story probably looks a bit better, but no, Final Fantasy VII is the Square Enix RPG, or Square RPG it was at the time. Alright, next game we've got is the original Grand Theft Auto. You know what, like, I didn't even think about having this game on like the PlayStation Classic. I really think of like I played Grand Theft Auto, I played Grand Theft Auto 2, and I played Grand Theft Auto London Missions. But when I own Grand Theft Auto on PlayStation, yeah, I did own it. It was my mate that owned the second one. I own Grand Theft Auto on PlayStation. But I don't really think Grand Theft Auto become a Sony PlayStation title really until the PlayStation 2 with Grand Theft Auto 3. That was when it really came on time. This one was, it was on the Saturn, I think, and it just there seems to be something very much more PC about it. That's not to say I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm saying it's a very, very good game. You can see kind of like with the tone and the humour, of course, with the gameplay and the violence, what the franchise would soon become as we get into the later years. And it probably does need to be here. I think there's just some other titles that aren't on it that I'm surprised about, but I never personally thought of this as a PlayStation Sony game. Next on my list is Intelligent Qube, I would say a little bit obscure puzzle game. And I'm surprised this because I'm looking at the date now. This came out in January 1997, and I thought this came out a lot later than that. It's not a game I really think of when I think of Sony. I never owned this game. I had this on the demo disc of it, and it's this puzzle game where you're this dude, and there's blocks coming towards you, and you like delete the blocks, but then there's some blocks that I think it was the green blocks that need to be cleared, and there's some blocks you can't clear. It was just this puzzle game. For me, yeah, I think of it as a Sony PlayStation game. I think it may be something for, on the classic because I remember playing it on demo disc all the time. But I'm a bit surprised about this one. I think you could have put other better games on there. Yeah. So the next game we've got is Jumping Flash, a mech robot bunny rabbit platformer. That was one of the first games I actually played on the PlayStation. Rented it out from Blockbusters. Tech demo like game. Early on in the PlayStation's life cycle, a lot of people experimenting, trying to figure out how to work with it. A lot of developers and publishers, and you can kind of hear the meeting going on at the time, which would have been like, we're going to make a platformer, and it's going to be first person, and it's going to be the greatest thing ever because it's all going to be in 3D, and everyone's going to love it. It kind of worked at the time slightly. It was definitely, it was very bizarre for the time. But you can, like I said, you can see what they were doing with it. Again, something I'm surprised that we didn't see more of. There was a sequel released on the PlayStation, and there was actually two sequels released, but it was not a franchise that carried on. Apparently, there was a spin-off or something for the Pocket Station. Wow! Bring out a mini Pocket Station. But yeah, no, just this interesting game. Funny enough, I do think of this as a Sony PlayStation game. This to me kind of, I think is a good way to sort of like look at the console's early stage of its life cycle and what developers were doing when they were experimenting in 3D and some of the ideas we had around platforming. So yeah, makes sense, and I'm happy to see it there. But I do have a personal bias towards it. Okay, next game we got is a biggie. It's Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid should 100% be on this list. Didn't own this game, borrowed it off a mate, completed it, but an incredibly important game. So much has been said about Metal Gear Solid and Hideo Kojima. I know I've done it. I've done a video on it, which you can find probably there somewhere. Started a whole new genre of sort of tactical stealth that I don't think many people had seen before. And, this word gets bounded around a lot, and the term cinematic. I know, and I agree with her. I think it sometimes is a bit of a hokily used term. There was this kind of movement in sort of the mid-90s, early 2000s about games had to be more cinematic. And I think the reason why we wanted things to be more cinematic was because if it was seen as cinema, it was seen as mainstream and could potentially be looked at as an art form. Yes, it is a bit douchey what I'm saying. So a lot of games sort of strive to be this tone cinematic, and very few of them actually achieved it. As we move into sort of the early 2000s and probably into the 2010s as well, the cinematic thing become just a way of like, we're going to do a heavily edited cutscene. We're going to make the cutscenes look really good, and people thought that was cinematic. It wasn't. What Metal Gear Solid done and what Kojima done was really balanced the concept of a game being cinematic and cinema. The way when you're swimming into the start into Shadow Moses, the way we've had the credits appear with the music roaring up, it made it like a film. But all that done to it was add a level of prestige to it. It didn't undermine the core art form of it being a gameplay. It was very well done, and it's something that a lot of people tried to imitate but couldn't get done. 100% should be there. It is definitely a PlayStation game, and it is a fantastic game. Metal Gear Solid should be played, and you are going to go now. Next up, I can't comment on this game at all. I have no knowledge of it, no recollection of its existence. Mr. Driller. Don't even remember it. Don't even remember the cover. can't even say I'd seen the cover in a shop one day. Puzzle game by Namco, drilling or something. Yeah, I can't say anything about it, and I'm not just going to pull up a fucking Wikipedia article and read it back to you lot, because I don't know. I ain't got nothing on it. Next up is another game that I do know a bit about. It's Oddworld's Abe's Oddysee. I wrote a review of the remastering of Oddworld's Abe's Oddysee. You can, fuck's sake, you find it there. I'll put a link to it. I wrote for the Express, and I also followed it up writing an article about the problems that I have with remaking of games. So I am very glad to see Oddworld's Abe's Oddysee on this list. I think it's a very important game. I think, however, it's a game of... it's a very good platformer game. You play as this little guy, Abe, and he finds out that his species of people are being... species of people? Yeah, his creatures are being used as a food source in the factory he works at. So he sort of goes on an odyssey to escape and save his people. Oddworld was supposed to be a lot bigger thing, and it kind of did become a big thing. But originally it was like going to be this vast, massive franchise and world. And they did really, they released a few games, and they've all had critical success. I don't think it necessarily translates to commercial sales, but yeah, a very good platformer. The speaking mechanics at the time was fascinating to me and my little brain. The fact that I could communicate with these AI characters. I'm trying to keep my eyes down because I'm noticing the light is reflecting off my glasses because I didn't sort that out last time. Need to probably watch a YouTube video on that. But Abe's Oddysee. Very well done, very well put together. A Sony game, a PlayStation game. Glad to see it on the list. Next up, one of the first platformers for the game, a game that I heavily played on the demo disc until I didn't actually play it when it came out, or even on the PlayStation until years later when I actually went back and had to play it, and that is Rayman. Now, although this game was released for the Atari Jaguar, Sega Saturn, MS-DOS, Game Boy Color, I mean those don't count. But yeah, it was a platformer, and for my little brain, it was interesting to see a platformer that was done outside of Sony, outside of Nintendo, I should say. Guess who won't go to sleep? And yes, I use a dummy. Don't dad shame me. So with Rayman, yeah, really good platformer. Quite beautiful, very beautiful. And it's one of the things that I always found about the PlayStation. I even thought at the time, there wasn't enough 2D games. Everyone was experimenting, trying to do 3D and polygons and just making some SIHIT. Oh, fuck it. You don't understand what's going on at the moment yet, do you? I probably shouldn't swear in front of you. I should be better than that. No, let's be better. Yeah, just making some terribly visual games. The novelty factor of the 3D, they hope they can subside on. And then you look at screenshots of Rayman, even to this day, and it looks gorgeous because there was an art style that worked within the technical limitations of the console at the time. Just looks a beautiful game, really. Simple, easy, to the point. Yeah, and a game that I think of as a Sony game, it's a PlayStation game. I'm glad to see it on here. Okay, next up, Biggie. It's a definitive PlayStation game. It's Resident Evil, the director's cut, and I'm glad to see it in its place. I'm glad to see it on there. As I've mentioned before, I'm not a fan of remakes and remasters, etc. And I like the fact that this original game is going to be going onto the store, onto the mini console. Yeah, so with this one here, it's just got a little bit more gore. I think there's more blood in it as well, and a bit more violence, and some new wardrobes and outfits. But yes, Resident Evil, a game I originally played on the PlayStation. Did I own Resident Evil? No, I didn't. I think I rented Resident Evil out. I owned Alone in the Dark 2, Jack is Back, which was absolutely terrible. But yes, Resident Evil, I will, to quote the Spoony one, be one of these people going, oh my god, the first time I played that game and the dogs jumped out my window, that was the beginning of the horror franchise. Yeah, alright, we all done it. It caught us all. And it kind of touching on what I was saying about the sort of Rayman previously. You know, it's a 3D game. It doesn't look that bad. It's blocky, it's of the time, but sort of with the pre-rendered backgrounds, I thought worked really well for it. I think it still looks good now. There was a juxtaposition of the characters versus the background. However, I could always look past it, same like I did with the Final Fantasy franchise. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, I had a guide for this game. I needed a guide to beat it. I was never going to be beating it on my own when I first played this thing. But yes, certainly a PlayStation game. Looking forward to the cutscene at the start in all of its glorious FMV wonder. And just to be clear, for the time, it wasn't cringy. We were happy to have it. Next on the list is a game I've not played ever. Revelations Persona. Look, I think the only reason why this game is on this list is because Persona 5 is massive and the Persona series has gone really well. That's why this game's on this list. For me, personally, obviously, I have no recollection of this game even existing. Yeah, I can't comment on it at all, really, but I think that's why they've put it on there. To me, I just don't think it seems like a PlayStation classic version. And I think that's one of the things with the PlayStation, on a sort of slight tangent point. I know they are doing, I've read this, there's a Japanese version that have got a couple of other games on it, such as Parasite Eve and Saga Frontier. Parasite Eve, I'd say, is very much a PlayStation game. And it's a shame it's not going to be on the sort of non-Japanese version. But I do think that there should be... it would be nice if they were done sort of a US, Europe, and a Japanese one. Because, like, for myself, with the PlayStation console, I'd say a lot of it was defined by the sports games on there. For me, Atra Soccer and Adidas Power Soccer. Which, if you've never seen Adidas Power Soccer, you owe it yourself to give it a Google just to see the Predator kick. You pressed X and triangle to shoot, and you shot the ball with the Predator kick, because the whole game was just an advertisement for Adidas and their trainers, particularly the Predator football boots. And the ball would hit the goalie, and then he'd stumble back and fall back down. And then, like, a video cut would play of an advert for the fucking trainer. It was the most atrocious thing ever. I think even at the time as a kid, I went, "This is some bad, marketing going on." But yeah, so it would have been nice if they had done regional ones, because I think probably for a lot of Japanese people, and yeah, I know some of you it's gonna, I played the Persona series from day one. That's great, but I just don't think for me it's really that big of a game. Next on the list, we've got Ridge Racer Type 4. Yes, there had to be a Ridge Racer game on there. It was very much, when sort of the, I would say, like, when the PlayStation first launched, the support it got from Namco was absolutely astounding. I mean, it was very much a Japanese game. I would have liked to have seen, personally, myself, if we are talking Ridge Racer games, I would have gone for Rage Racer, which was the third Ridge Racer game. Not because I own that one. I didn't own that one. I owned Ridge Racer Revolution. I bought it off a friend for like £2 or something like that. But Ridge Racer is a very, very important game. It's just this. It's an arcade style kind of car game. I think there is some realism in it. I get why they've done Ridge Racer R4, because it was sort of the last one they'd done, so it's probably going to be a better showing off the franchise. I bet if you've done a comparison between Ridge Racer and Ridge Racer 4, there would be a huge difference between the two. I'm writing down more games that I think should have been on the list as we talk. But yeah, so it makes sense on there, especially for that franchise. Next on the list, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. Okay, for me, this is a PlayStation game. This is a real in PlayStation game. This is like one of my favourite games of all time. It's probably in the top 10. I was so happy that I could buy this on the PlayStation 3 because they released the Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo HD remix. I know I've sort of written pieces saying, but I don't like remastering, etc. It wasn't really a remastering, and I still appreciate the original one. I really like it. It's just a really good puzzle game. It's just sort of switching, matching the jewels. I liked the Street Fighter theme. I like the different characters. I like the cubes about it. I like a good puzzle game. Tetris, I absolutely adore. Puyo Puyo Tetris is one of my happiest games I've got on Nintendo Switch. And it's strange that I can sort of I was quite good at this. I would say I was reasonably good. I think if I played probably online, I'd get handed to me. But I can't get the hang of Puyo Puyo at all. But yeah, this for me is a real PlayStation game because it just even at the time when it came out, it was like what they made a puzzle game out of Street Fighter. You know, again, Little Brain Tom, but years ahead of his time, sort of going. They're just exploiting these franchises, working it on some puzzle game, but. No, I've thoroughly enjoyed this game. And also as well, it had characters from Darkstalkers and Night Warriors as well, which, God, that is a franchise I've not thought about in ages. When was the last one they released? They released one on the PSN, Darkstalkers, in 2013. Wow. Darkstalkers would be an interesting fighting game to see on here. But yeah, sorry, side point. But no, I really like this puzzle game. Okay, next up on the list, we have got Syphon Filter, a game for myself personally, rented out at my nan's house, and she's down in Southend, and me and my cousins, we played and beat Syphon Filter. Espionage spy game. At the time, and still probably now, kind of thought it as a slight Metal Gear Solid rip-off or wannabe. Just couldn't really do it. I mean, but then again, we were kids and teenagers early back then. Everything was ripping everything else off. Do you know what I mean? No one had original ideas. We had to slag everything off. But yeah, it was just sort of this. It was just not even a weird. It was just this sort of. How can I explain? You know what? Like, if it would have come out now for like the PS3 or the PS4, no one would have blinked an eyelid because it was a very much a generic action. I thought of another game. A very much a generic action adventure gun kind of game. It was pre. What was his name? That guy, Jake Fisher, whatever it is. The Tom Clancy one that's like Metal Gear Solid. It's playing up there now, whatever it is. It's gonna bug me. It was kind of like pre that, but it was like that in a way. I mean, I had a lot of fun playing it at the time. I look at it now and I think, God, that has not aged well. It's definitely a Sony game. Not Sony game, sorry. It's definitely a PlayStation game. But I just think there's better ones that could have been on there. It's not something I really think, woo, Syphon Filter. Like, nostalgia me goes, oh yeah, Syphon Filter, but objective goes, no. Tekken 3. I'm not a big Tekken fan. I owned 2. I had the demo disc 3, if I remember correctly. And I did kind of like Tekken. Tekken's like... I'm in some Tekken groups on Facebook, and it's not a cult, because that's not an insulting word, but Tekken is fucking serious. It's a damn near religion for you people. It's like... And I think it's probably like that with all fighting game communities, with Street Fighter, Tekken, certainly the Smash community as well. But yeah, the Tekken guys are hard into it, and I never really understood the game. Quite honest, I don't think it's a bad game. I think it's a very, very good fighting game, but I never picked up the mechanics of it. The whole air juggling stuff, I just never got it. But for some reason, I got Battle Arena Toshinden. For me, yeah, just I never got it. Never got it. I don't think it's bad. When I get it, I probably will whack it up just to go play through it a bit. Yeah, it is. It's a very 90s fighting game. It's not. Tekken was never for me. Next up on this is probably the game I'm most surprised about. That's Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. I know this came out on PlayStation, but I don't really think of it as a PlayStation game. Yeah, come out on PlayStation, then 64. This is a PC game. This is a PC game, like, through and through. This isn't a PlayStation game. If you were playing this on a console, there was something wrong with you. Like, we still hadn't figured out first persons on consoles properly. Yes, we had Doom, and Doom was great on it. And there was, like, the Medal of Honor games. I think the early Medal of Honor games were on there. I remember, like, seeing my friend playing them on his PlayStation, being like, well, it's not a PC. You needed this on PC. It just, to me, I'm surprised by it. I never probably played this game myself. I'd been around a lot of people that used to play it because I was heavy into CS Counter-Strike when I was a teenager, like all teenagers. And Rainbow Six was always knocking around at the time. But yeah, never. I'm really shocked about this one. I think you could have put a lot better games on there. I kind of looking at it, I think they went, we got to put a first-person shooter on there. What are we going to put on? And they went, someone probably went Doom, and they went, yeah, Doom's on everything else. Let's do Rainbow Six. Rainbow Six Siege is really popular. We'll put that on there. It'll be fine. Ubisoft owe us. Like, I don't know. I'm shocked. I'm just quite frankly shocked. I just don't think it's a classic PlayStation game. But this next one is a big classic PlayStation game. This is Twisted Metal. Twisted Metal is definitely, it's that 90s, Destruction Derby, but kind of like a more evolved form of Carmageddon. It was definitely sort of a Sony stalwart title. I think I've used that word correctly. When they announced there was 4 Twisted Metal games on the PlayStation. When they announced the PlayStation 2, I think Twisted Metal was a launch title. If it wasn't, it was something that was heavily hyped that there was going to be a Twisted Metal 2. And they also done it as well with the PlayStation 3, or they attempted it with, hey, we're bringing back Twisted Metal. It's a car game where you drive around shooting things, and the whole thing about it had a clown. It's just it's a very much a Sony game. It's a PlayStation game. It's a title that you think of for a lot of the advertising and marketing that was done around the original PlayStation at the time. It was heavily used. So yeah, it's not bad. It makes sense it being there. Okay, and we're at the last one on the list, which I've never not played, can't really comment on it. It's Wild Arms, a Western RPG produced by Square Enix. I don't know why I didn't play this. This is the kind of thing I would like. I do remember seeing this game quite around. Was it made by Square Enix? No, it wasn't made by Square Enix. Who made Wild Arms? Who made what? Mediavision, a Japanese development company. Wow, they made a lot of Wild Arms. What else they made? Chaos Rings. Some Dragon Ball Z games. Sorry. But yeah, I never played it. I'm actually really looking forward to playing this because I looked at a couple of screenshots of it, looked at some video, and I thought, yeah, that's up me. JRPG set in Western, yeah, I like that. I'm down for that. I can't wait to see what their sort of Western cowboy story. I can't wait to see what their interpretation of it's going to be. I like looking at other cultures taking and interpreting other cultures' games in an art form. Not even games, but just anything in art form. I think it's interesting to see. So a Japanese interpretation of American Westerns, I'm down for it. So guys, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good day. Bye-bye.